Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare. So settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gifts, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, glad to have you here. Oh look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee?
I don't drink coffee.
You sure? It's cultist coffee.
What makes it cultist coffee?
I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it.
Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to my home. Welcome to the office. And welcome to the morning grind. It is great to see everybody. I am sorry for being late. I can't get anything to work this morning. I was unable to. I was like, all right, I had all my browser links up to show off the tweets and talk about, and then I couldn't get them to come up this morning at all, and I had to go to another browser, and then I was going to show off some other links, and I can't get them to come up either, so I don't know what's going on. So all of a sudden this morning I'm having all kinds of technical problems trying to get things happening. So all right, well, but I think I do have at least enough up for the discussion here. So it is great to see everybody, and let's see, who all do we have in the chat this morning? Let's see. Hey, John, good to see you. It's been a while. Good to see you. Welcome. We got James Bacon. Good morning. Micah in the Ravenkeep Discord server. Micah's been talking quite a bit about this subject. Micah and Robert as well. So this has been something I think, obviously an important topic in the Geekverse going on. Hey, PH. Good morning. Good morning. We got Mike. The Titter Pig Rancher, Sable Phoenix is here. Brett's here. Great to see everybody. So, hey, Cal. All right, so bringing everybody back together. Yeah. So, I was wondering, like, do we even consider? Hey, Jappards, consider this topic. And I did think about this topic for last Sunday. I've been streaming on Wednesday and Sunday mornings, but I was just too tired to actually stream it all on Sunday. So I was like, all right, let's just hold. And I needed to do a whole lot more research on this because I saw headlines. Go by. Okay, oh my God, something about Elon Musk and Dungeons and Dragons and Hasbro. Sounds like something I should look at, but I was just involved in other things. So I took the time and ultimately decided, yeah, I suppose we should take a look at this. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I was actually going to first bring up a link, see different links that were going on. I was going to send a link to the, well, I can still put it in the chat, even though at the moment I can't get it to come up. But the $500 dice giveaway, Elder Dice giveaway, that's supposed to be the link right there anyway. We will see. So that's supposed to be the link to the sign up. Because I'm going to be live. I was going to be live tonight with Paulie from the Latino Slant, but actually I noticed as I was trying to log into something else and getting emails that he sent email to me saying that he didn't think he was going to be able to make it tonight. So I'm going to reschedule our conversation and review and watch party with Paulie. For tonight, I'm going to see if I can find a different guest. So I'm going to see if I can find a different guest for this evening, talk on the Cultist channel with. But if not, I don't know. We'll see. So I'll put all that out on the Ravenkeep Discord server. So a lot of stuff all of a sudden happened this morning. So I will put a link to the server if you are new here, Ravenkeep server, Ravenkeep Discord. That conversation was happening over on the Cultist YouTube channel. And of course, the Cultist is my mockumentary web show about modern day Lovecraftian cultists just trying to worship Cthulhu in a world full of people who don't understand. So there we go. That link. Yeah. Okay. So that link is not currently working. Well, I got to figure out why that is. I wonder why that is. Nothing's working this morning. Oh, well. So let's, hopefully the Discord invite works. Okay. So, well, if I had things ready, I would show a preview of one of the things I've been working on for the cultists. I've been working on videos. I haven't been doing a whole lot of standalone videos, I know, here on this channel because I have been live streaming here and on the Table Talk channel and having discussions there, which is going great. The Table Talk channel is where we talk about movies and games, movies and stories and books and things like that. And then what time I spend making actual videos, I've been making stuff for the cultists and been making music videos and things like that. So, hey, let's do a breathe and sip this morning before we get into it. We probably do need it. And in fact, I probably need to already refill my coffee cup after all of this. So, all right, everybody have your favorite beverage this morning. I've got coffee in the Fish Do Not Drink Tea mug. It's appropriate this morning. Let's do 2 deep breaths before we get into this topic here. We'll do 2 deep breaths. And then complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage this morning. Let's go ahead and breathe and sip. Let's breathe. And sip. Here we go. Today, actually, I think needs another sip. Let's go. Let's do another sip. Let's do another sip. Ah, there we go. There we go. All right. I'm definitely going to have to break for more coffee here during this discussion. Okay. So after going into this, I was like, how do I approach this? Because I was also listening to a bunch of other people's commentary on YouTube and who had made videos on this. Of course, it seems like a lot of people, understandably, all the major D&D YouTubers have commented on this in some way. But, I thought very similarly to what was kind of discussed in the Ravenkeep Discord server that there were things that were actually not being talked about. This topic obviously inspires people to want to talk about a lot of things. So when you're listening to YouTube or when you're on Twitter, there are a lot of different topics that get brought up and discussed that may or may not be central to the to the issue. And actually, I also think that, which is actually perfectly fine, that a lot of things have been said. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been said. And so I was trying to think, well, is there anything new that's going on here that I could possibly talk about or add to this discussion? And I think it's things that are not generally being talked about. After I went through and I was reading the original tweets, and by the way, this 50th anniversary book, I have actually not read. So I don't know. I have not actually read that book. I don't have that book. I really haven't been paying attention to Wizards of the Coast and Dungeons and Dragons in a long time, really since the OGL situation. You know, there are other things that I've been doing. There are other games that I've been playing. Most of my gaming, and actually most of my gaming is Hero Quest, actually, in live in person with my nephews. So it just really hasn't been on my radar all that much. So I went back and I started to read all of these tweets. Like, okay, so what's going on with the tweets, though? But maybe it's good that I haven't read the book, because all I'm doing is going off of basically two main tweets and then Elon's responses, right? Like what caused this and what caused this kind of reaction. And to me, there is an underlying communication issue. When I'm looking at this, I'm saying there is a communication issue between groups of people. You know, information siloing, discussion just amongst people who share your own views is a problem, and has been for a long time, but only seems like it increasingly becomes a problem. And I'm not sure how we solve that. So we have an underlying problem of communication issue about groups of people who don't understand each other, don't talk to each other, and in some cases, and just don't care, which is fine. Everyone is welcome to associate with whoever you want, but that doesn't prevent that issue from being foundational to what's going on. So when I'm looking at this, I do definitely see issues of communication that's going on here. And it's a similar situation to a lot of things that have happened in franchises over the years. I don't really, I don't partake in the culture war, basically at all. I know there are a lot of people, especially on the internet and especially on YouTube, who are heavily involved in, fighting a war for pop culture and all of that. And man, I just tune all of that out for the most part. So, I have not been involved in that. And so I'm unfamiliar with I'm unfamiliar with most of the players actually in the Twitter exchange. Yeah, most of the D&D, so I watched all of them. But I also don't know these people involved in, I know who Elon Musk is, obviously, but I don't know the people who have been involved in this discussion. So the other thing, like the communication issues, but then also issues surrounding IP ownership in today's society. And that has to do with, something James Bacon and I were talking about last night on the Table Talk channel when we were talking about the movie The Hobbit, that, a aspect of our society is that a lot of things that we would like are basically kind of the myths of today that we have given to the world. I'm talking about in general civilization here, have given to the world, are corporately owned. And we talked briefly, James Bacon and I did briefly about, was that the situation in, say, the Roman Empire? I don't really know what the response to, say, the Aeneid by Virgil was. But was there a group of geeks who were like, what? Poseidon did what? Virgil, oh my God, you wrote Poseidon completely wrong. I can't, we're going to go to war to save the Trojan War or something like that, right? Maybe, but they didn't have ownership over, like a corporation didn't have ownership over the Greco-Roman pantheon the way that, say, Lucasfilm has ownership of Star Wars, or Hasbro has ownership over D&D. So I see issues surrounding corporate ownership of the things that we might consider something like foundational myths, and also fundamental communication issues that I don't know how to solve. Because I also do think, so we did do our general thinking about the Roman Empire today. So, and hey, actually, James Bacon, if you're there, can I quote you? something from the Discord server when you were talking about what the main issue is? Because I thought one of the underlying issues. I think those two issues were kind of underneath it. But do you mind if I quote you? If so, I've got it up right here. Okay, quote away. So I think building on top of those two things that I was just talking about, Bacon said in the Discord server, it's about, this is the one of the core issues here. It's about people who love a specific property and would like to resume purchasing official releases, but who may take issue with paying specific organizations or individuals money. Boom. Yes. That is it. It's not about how somebody is going to be talking to you at the table, or if you're trying to control how somebody else plays, because that's also talked about. Oh, we like to play the game this way. Well, we don't like to play that game this way. Or we think playing that game is wrong. Well, okay, everybody, yes, can play the game how they want to play. But we have a situation where we have the ownership of something that a lot of us really love, Dungeons and Dragons, owned by a company, Hasbro, Wizards of the Coast, which is owned by Hasbro. And this is going both ways. When we're talking about the communication issue of different camps that we've got, we say that we've got, yes, certain groups of people who love this thing and would like to continue or resume purchasing official releases, but who may take issue with paying specific organizations or individuals money. There we go. Yes. And these groups of people often just do not talk to each other. So let's bring up some of these tweets here, because I was like, okay, oh my God, what happened? And if I'm missing something, because it's really, I believe, two tweets. The two big ones were two different tweets, and then Elon's response to it. Okay, so let me bring this up. Okay. In fact, I'm going to need to pour more coffee. Should I just pour more coffee before we even start this? I think I will. Okay, I'm going to pour more coffee before we even start these tweets right here. So you know what? We've got a very early Yeti hug break.
Oh, it's time for a Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break, Yeti hug break. Everybody go hug yo Yeti and show yo Yeti some love.
And of course, I spilled coffee all over the floor. Man, today is just not going well. Okay. Okay, so, and I don't know this person Grooms. GR, but I don't know who this person is. But anyway, so the original tweet had to do with this. This person says D&D creators, Gygax and others, are erased and slandered at the same time. WotC and Hasbro just released the new Player's Handbook Dungeons Master's Guide, as well as the 40th anniversary Making of D&D book. I think it's the 50th anniversary, right? Whose forward slams the original creators and attempts to distance themselves. I spoke with one of the original creators, Rob Kuntz, about the problem. Okay, so this, whether or not this is true or not, I mean, yes, I also, Bob the World Builder brought up, like, how is it true that it's being erased and slandered? Like, isn't this, at the same time, isn't it true that this book is a reproduction of a lot of Gygax's original, like, typewriter written material? Doesn't it say that? So, okay, but whatever. This was the original tweet. And attached to it are these images. And so this is part of that book, right? And I want to give with this entire thing. We've got something that's called out right here, specifically with a box. But I want to take a look at the entire thing in context here. well, clearly, like I said, I don't know anything about him. So he's a World of Warcraft developer, or used to be a former World of Warcraft developer. But anyway, it's his tweet that started all of this, apparently. But so my understanding is that this is an excerpt from this book that was published. So here's what it says. Let's take a look at the whole page here. This book also includes something never published, the original draft of Dungeons and Dragons that Gygax crafted from his home typewriter with his and Arneson's annotations and corrections. This draft led to the 1974 publication of the first edition of D&D, which is reprinted here in its entirety. Okay, well, I mean, that to me, that definitely sounds like an acknowledgement of Gygax and Arneson and the original creators. I mean, am I wrong there? I mean, this whole book is the publication of that material, right? Like, so I mean, that seems kind of strange to me to be talking about their erasure when this whole book is a publication of the original notes of Gygax, right? I mean, right? Am I missing something there? I don't think so. So he says, finally, the three most important supplements to the first edition of the game, Greyhawk, Blackmoor, and Eldritch Wizardry appear here, as do numerous articles and expansions written by fans, many of which were incorporated into advanced Dungeons and Dragons in the years before 1977. I'm wondering, see, this actually sounds like a really interesting book to me, potentially an interesting book. With a few noted exceptions, every page reproduced in this book is from a first printing with no attempt to correct the original pages. Street addresses and phone numbers have been redacted. Okay, so that's understandable. The early rules for D&D are important and incredibly influential, but they're also confusing and even contradictory. That's how we've left them. We don't encourage you to try to play 1974 D&D from these pages. If you want to try, Wizards of the Coast has edited and republished the original Dungeons & Dragons white box in both physical and digital formats. These reprints incorporate errata from later printings of the game. Actually, I've never read those, and I'm kind of interested to know what they say. So actually, you know, we, on the show, like we've gone through a lot of RPGs. We went through, what's the supposedly really controversial? Is it? Suddenly, I've lost my train of thought here. Yeah, Dark Sun. Right, that's what I was thinking of. We went through Dark Sun, right? Here, and actually, I've never read the original D&D. It might be interesting. The Titterpig for 18 months says, a member for 18 months, thank you, Titterpig, says, I think the erasure stuff comes from stuff like the D&D movie, where they did not have Gygax or Arneson in the credits. WotC wants to be the sole proprietor. Yeah, so that's different. Okay, so yeah, I agree. So that was weird. I remember when that happened, and I also thought that was weird. That, you know, it's got, game by Hasbro, or it's based on the game by Hasbro. But that's, to me, this tweet right here was in reference to this book, because I mean, here's what's being brought up right here. Maybe I suppose the most charitable interpretation might be to that okay, erasure in some aspects by the movie part. Maybe after the OGL debacle, I don't see how WotC has a leg to stand on, frankly, and since I haven't bought anything from them since. See, and I'm basically the same way now. I do have bought Hero Quest supplements, and I have been sent Hero Quest supplements, which are by Avalon Hill, which is owned by, Hasbro as well. Some people have an issue with that, but right, I don't. I haven't published anything I was particularly interested in. There's so much out there. But although this, 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, this seems interesting. Okay, this book represents D&D as it was first imagined, warts and all. What sort of warts are we talking about? One example is including creatures from other intellectual properties, such as J.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth, without permission. In later printings of D&D, Balrogs, Hobbits, and Ents were renamed Baelors, Halflings, and Treants to avoid these copyright issues. That's also very interesting to me. I would like to read that. and see it's because just like, what is the original? Where did all this come from? That would be interesting to know. And what was Tolkien's, the influence of Tolkien and other things on here. Let's see. So now we get to the original part that was called out. Some language in the first iteration of D&D presents a moral quandary. The documents reproduced in this book include many pages of charts and tables alongside lists of monsters, spells, and magic items. But that game content also includes a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory language, words that are casually hurtful to anyone with a physical or mental disability, or who happens to be old, fat, not conventionally attractive, indigenous, black, or a woman. I want to read all the way through this first. Some people have charitably ascribed this language to authors working from bad assumptions. In the 1970s, historical wargamers in America were predominantly white middle-class men. It isn't surprising that they would dub a class of soldiers the fighting man. But when, in the pages of Greyhawk, the description of the Queen of Chaotic Dragons includes a dig at women's lib, the misogyny is revealed as a conscious choice. It's an unfortunate fact that women seldom appear in original D&D, and when they do, they're usually portrayed disrespectfully. Slavery appears in the original D&D not as a human tragedy that devastated generations over the centuries, but as a simple commercial transaction. The cultural appropriation of original D&D ranges from the bewildering, like naming every 6th level cleric a llama, to the staggering. Gods, demigods, and heroes not reprinted in this book includes game statistics for sacred figures revered by more than 1 billion people around the world. Were players expected to fight Vishnu, one of the principal deities of Hinduism, kill him and loot him for his +3 sword of demon slaying? That's the section that's called out. I'm going to finish with this paragraph, and then we'll go back to the beginning of the section that was called out. So it says, in order to have the whole context, so despite these shortcomings, D&D has always been a game about choosing to be someone unlike themselves and collaborating with strangers who become friends. It has slowly become more inclusive, and as the player base has become more diverse, the pool of creators, the pool of creators who make this game has expanded to include people with a broader range of identities and backgrounds. These new creators make the game more welcoming. The game has attracted, as the new creators have made the game more welcoming, the game has attracted new fans who in turn continue to make the game more inclusive. The future of Dungeons and Dragons here at its 50th anniversary is bright, and it all started with the pages that follow. Okay, so what are people saying about this? I see a lot of things going by in the comments here. Well, okay, so I don't really like I said, I don't since I haven't been like buying a whole bunch of Wizards of the Coast stuff anyway, I probably wouldn't have even noticed this. And I think that what I would have done if I were reading through here and I were reading this, I would have gone, oh, okay, so I think I just kind of, at best, I think I kind of would have just rolled my eyes and moved on, right? But obviously a lot of people don't. And this is speaking to an audience. Okay, here's the kind of communication that we're talking about. Like, do you remember when there was the statement or something about from what was it, Kyle Brink, that was like, hey, white guys like me can't leave the hobby fast enough. I was talking to my friend Lou Anders at the time. Of course, that was involved with the OGL debacle, and Lou was on the channel quite a bit. Lou's an author, and he does independent development for his world. And I was like, so what do we make of this statement? And Lou said something that, I was like, okay, I agree with that. Lou was like, well, that sounds like something that a particular, I wonder what type of word to use here. Progressive, socially progressive. Maybe that's the word to use. That sounds like something that a social progressive, this is what Lou was saying. That sounds like something that a social progressive in Seattle would say to each other, and no one would think anything of it. But that plays differently to people elsewhere in the country. That's not an exact quote from Lou, but that was the that's the gist of what he said. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Okay, so that's right. So a lot of people took that different ways, but why did he say that? Yeah, probably because that's the kind of thing that people of a social, political persuasion, liberal, progressive, whichever term you want to use, particularly Seattle-based, would say to each other, and people probably wouldn't even bat an eye, as you're talking that way. So, but that when you take that out of that context, other people respond to it differently, right? So that's the communication issue that I was talking about here. So, if I'm looking at this with a bit more detail, and like I said, I probably would have just kind of rolled over this if I had gotten the book, because I wanted to see what the original, writings were and things like that for historical reasons. We can break it down. Like, am I looking at a moral quandary when I'm looking at this? Like, I don't have the whole book, and I'm kind of fascinated by the book now because I kind of really want to know. Like, when I look at, if I go through this, am I going to be presented with a major moral quandary? Is its language going to give me a moral quandary when I read it? Because it's fascinating. It says this game content includes a virtual catalog of insensitive and derogatory language. Well, actually, that also makes me go like, it does? I kind of really want to look at it then. So maybe we got to look at this too. Like, because, so if you are of this particular opinion, then he seems to be saying here that what you're about to read is a catalog of insensitive and derogatory language. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I haven't gone and looked at the book. But I'm like, whoa, really? That this stuff is a catalog of insensitive and derogatory language, words that are casually hurtful to anyone, words that are casually hurtful to anyone with a physical or mental disability who happen to be old, like fat, not conventionally attractive, indigenous, black, or a woman. So like, this is one of those things. It actually kind of reminds me of the Streisand effect here, because I'm like, really, this is a catalog of insensitive and derogatory language for anyone who happens to be old or fat. Like, I kind of want to know what's in it then. Like, what is that? What is the catalog of language? Catalog of insensitive and derogatory language for the fat or the old. And, so, okay. Like I said, Streisand effect. Now I want to go read it. What's that? $10 for the Titterpig Rancher for $10. Thank you very much. Titterpig Rancher says, it's like if you find this person's view so reprehensible. I think this is following up on some earlier commentary. Hang on. Let me go to what you were saying. If I can. So right here. Okay. So I believe you were following up on this. Erasure can also mean from an ideological perspective. They're sitting here crapping all over Gygax's memory, saying how he was part of a racist, misogynistic, whateverist culture, and his writing was unacceptable, but we're still going to make money off of it. That's what's getting people's backs up. It's like a giant disclaimer, but doesn't actually mean anything except to conform to a particular political take. Well, that's so then right here. So following up here, it's like if you find this person's view so reprehensible that you have to publicly distance yourself from them, then you have some actual conviction and don't make money off their work. But if but if you do what WotC's doing here, you have no integrity. You're just posturing. I understand that take. Of course, that happens. I mean, that happens a lot, like with the disclaimers or things like that. That hey, here we've got some. Like, I actually think that we could rewrite this. What I was thinking last night or a few nights ago as I was looking at this, I was like, you know what? I bet this section, which is part of the communication issue that I was talking about, I bet this section, which is the one that everybody is, started getting everybody so upset. And we haven't even gotten to Elon Musk yet, have we? Has gotten everybody so upset, could have been rewritten / edited and no one would have even thought about it at all. And I bet we could do that. I bet we could rewrite this so that it would be completely not an issue. Say what is intending to be said here, but say it differently, write it differently, and then nobody would have even been upset about it. Like, I bet you could completely do that. And that's the job of the editors, which we're going to bring up the editors later on. But I bet we completely could do that. But it's like those disclaimers, what Sable is talking about here, that, hey, it is. There is a sense of, okay, we want to have this both ways. We've got this in our catalog, our back catalog. This happens with like cartoons and Disney and everything like that. Well, what do we do? Well, clearly we want to make money off of it, like clearly, but we want to make sure that if certain people are upset about it or going to be offended by it, that they don't stop buying our current stuff. So it's kind of a Band-Aid, right? Those kinds of things are kind of a Band-Aid. Hey, there's stuff in this that some people may not like. So here's our acknowledgement of that. And buy it from us. Please buy it from us. And please continue to buy our new stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's a half. I mean, I can see why people would say, okay, that's a halfway kind of way to do it. I mean, are they really saying that? But are they really saying that the views here are so reprehensible to have to are so reprehensible? Oh, well, I mean, clearly they are distancing themselves. I mean, I would say clearly that's the issue, and it comes up later. That's the explicit thing that they were trying to do. I still think you could reword this so that it isn't an issue at all, and doesn't Streisand affect you. like actually, this makes me want to go and get. Check out the book just to see so what's actually in here. And maybe it is shocking. I mean, maybe I didn't play the original, and especially since these are like unpublished typewriter written stuff or something like that. Who knows? Who knows? Other people may already have the book and look at it or whatever. But like, when this just comes out, it's like, really? Okay, hold on. So what's in this book? What actually was in it? Maybe it is just absolutely, just absolutely shocking. Maybe I kind of doubt it, but like I said, Streisand affecting me here. So, okay. What I meant to bring up the thing with the chaotic dragon, including a dig at women's lib. Because I was also like, okay, so what is that? And I don't have that ready. Does somebody have a link that actually has that? Can you put that in the Discord server? Because it says some people have charitably ascribed this language to authors working from bad assumptions. But then it goes on to basically say that this isn't the case. So it's not surprising that men would dub a class of soldiers the fighting man. Is that the original term for fighter? Is that what we're getting at here? That instead of a fighter, you were a fighting man? Or are we talking about a class of soldiers? I don't know. I guess it is. I guess to me, it's just not surprising that a group of people in general might dub a class of soldiers fighting men. In generally speaking, because they certainly could be. But okay. But then the pages of Greyhawk, the Queen of the Chaotic Dragons. Oh, we got right here. Robert, member for 17 months, says the OGL 2.0 was going to impose the same diversity standards on third-party creators, similar to legacy disclaimers on old TSR. Musk finally noticed. Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's spicy this morning. Okay, Mike. Okay, Mike. Here's phrased differently. Yes, it would have been more accepted. Yeah. I think we could sit here and we could do that. Well, he says you could indeed. You could also eliminate it completely to avoid the brush fire. But we want to talk about why it's included, because that was brought up. There's no need to comment on the current day take about stuff that was written a century prior from people selling that stuff. They're making money from it. That's all that needs to be known. Your opinions of the author's work is meaningless. Okay, so yes, Better with Bacon says Fighting Man is the original name. Okay. Gamer's Quest, I'm not sure they're necessarily saying that Gygax's views are so reprehensible. Maybe so. More so, it might be a product of its times. But we know more now. We're more evolved. We speak differently. Yeah, see, and the use and addressing the use of language. Hey, well, to rewrite this, and yeah, I mean, yeah, we can definitely say that. So, we also getting confirmation that was the original name for the fighter class back when it was only the fighting man, wizard, cleric, and thief. Okay, wait a minute. Let's see if I can come up with Greyhawk. Greyhawk. I thought I saw that. Because I think here is. Did somebody may have posted it? Okay, that's not a screen capture, but maybe somebody can verify that this is actually what this is something from N-World, that this is not a screen capture or something like that, but it's a it appears to be the quote. So here it is. A few months ago, there was a thread on sexism in D&D. I mentioned in passing a reference to women's lib in D&D, but couldn't find the original reference. Here it is. From Greyhawk D&D Supplement 1, page 35, misspellings and emphasis in original. Dragons. These additional varieties of dragons conform to the typical characteristics of their species, except where noted. There is only one king of lawful dragons, just as there is only one queen of chaotic dragons. Women's lib may make whatever they wish from the foregoing. So that's the only context that I've got. Yes, it's okay. I've been rereading the original D&D booklets recently, and there are other humorous references and parentheticals. Feel free to post any that make you smile. So that's this person right. So yeah. So okay. So this we have a parenthetical here. So we're talking about different styles of writing game rule books, which we've encountered as we've gone through some of the older stuff too here on this channel and on the morning grind. Sometimes it's funny to encounter the ways that older style game books will even write rules and address things. So editorializing in parentheticals are not really something that we do in game rules anymore. But this is telling you there is only one king of lawful dragons, just as there is only one queen of chaotic dragons. There's one king of lawful dragons. Women's lib may make whatever they wish from the foregoing. And when was this published? Maybe this is it. So yeah, actually, this is it. So this is, do I have a 1976? Hey, RPG Gen Exile. So, okay, so assuming that's it. So I guess this is a reference to Tiamat, right? I was reading or listening to the Enuma Elish for discussion on Table Talk later. But am I right? That's the inspiration, right? So there's only one queen of chaotic dragons, probably because that's mythological reference to Tiamat, right? She's been in Dungeons and Dragons, right? So then we have this parenthetical, women's lib may make whatever they wish from the foregoing. Yes, that is. So what is that? Is that humor? Or is it here consciously misogynistic? See, because when I read that, and like I said, because I haven't read some of these other things, hey, maybe this thing is just full of, is a catalog of derogatory language directed at the fat. Okay, maybe. But here's one. So because I haven't gotten, I don't have it. But is what I just read a consciously misogynistic choice? And it does seem like by implication that the other things are also conscious choices. Now, that could be me reading into it a little bit, but because we are talking about that this contains all of this insensitive and derogatory language to the old, the fat, the non-conventionally attractive, the indigenous, the black, and to women, and then he gives the example that, hey, for instance, this is actually a conscious choice to be misogynistic toward women. It does seem like to me, by implication that of this example, that we're also being consciously, that the charitable interpretation of ascribing this or that the charitable interpretation that this language was used because authors are working from bad assumptions is wrong, because they've actually revealed through this example that it's conscious and deliberate. It's a conscious choice. See, and I think this section would at least need to be rewritten, because I don't know, how can we really know what, how can you know that? Like, because I can read this section right here. If I'm just going by this and I'm reading this about this parenthetical that says women's lib may make whatever they wish from the foregoing, being that there's only one king of lawful dragons, only one queen of chaotic dragons, is my conclusion that this is consciously, that as a result, I can tell that this is consciously misogynistic. I don't know if I can go there. Also, the way we use terms and things like that, because the term misogyny, what does misogyny mean? Now, I very rarely hear the term sexist anymore, because some things may be sexist. Some things can definitely be sexist. Well, I mean, some things are misogynistic too. But when I think of something that is sexist, that term used to be used a lot more. Whereas to me, and things could be deliberately sexist or sexist in retrospect or unintentionally sexist. Something can be sexist either deliberately or not. And it could be something that needs to be fixed, whether it was conscious choice or not conscious. But to me, misogyny years ago was different from sexism, because misogyny was the hatred of women. That, okay, you could be a sexist maybe because you're a product of your time or whatever, and have particular ideas about the roles of women or whatever. And okay, and your views might be regarded as sexist, but misogynistic years ago, that was something different. That a misogynist was somebody who actually hated women. So there was something that was conscious about that, and it went to the level of hatred. Is that your understanding of the term as well? But I very rarely hear about things being misogynistic, or I very rarely hear about things being sexist anymore. Everything is misogynistic. I hear the word misogynistic a lot. So it's all, and of course, in some cases, I suppose that because of our language, the way that our language has gone, misogynistic just means sexist toward women. You could be sexist the other way too. But so maybe this is just meant in the way that it's misogynistic. Okay, Google at the moment is telling me strongly prejudiced against women. That's also why I like strongly prejudiced against women. You don't really hear the word prejudice that much anymore. Everybody uses the word bigoted. That's also why I like things like printed dictionaries. You can go back. Okay, so in the 90s, what did the word misogynistic mean? Oh, you can also see the use of the word misogynistic. That's how it's just, yes, exploding on the Google graph here. So maybe this term here, maybe I'm getting caught up on this. A misogyny is it's saying it is conscious. So maybe it's just talking about sexism, but yes, that to be strongly prejudiced against women or invested in the hatred of women is something that is a conscious choice here. Not seeing it. Okay, so there's a lot of comments right here. Yeah, okay, so misogyny, so Bacon says misogyny is the general hatred or mistrust of women. Sexism is the discrimination based on sex. Right, so yeah, so this is and so when you understand misogyny is the hatred of women, when I read that, do I understand that there is a hatred of women in this? A deliberate hatred of women that is something foundational or inherent in Dungeons and Dragons. So it says, it's an unfortunate fact that women seldom appear in original D&D, and when they do, they're usually portrayed disrespectfully. Yeah, I know. It's 1974 Women's Lib, right? That is shorthand for Women's Liberation Movement. So yes, Women's Lib is the Women's Liberation Movement. So Drudenfuzz says, well, Tiamat and Bahamut are from a patriarchal religion mythology, and so taking that is also a misogynistic choice. Including Tiamat. So if you include Tiamat in the game, you are consciously hating women. This is the conscious hatred of women. Let's see. Looking through the comments here. Gamer's Quest says, by that definition, there does seem to be a bit of contempt or disdain for the women's liberation movement. Yeah. Perhaps poking fun at it. I mean, also like, okay, so yeah, because I'm sure they have. I mean, I'm sure that okay, so hang on. Well, that's great. This is an AI. Okay, well, okay, we can go to Women's Liberation Movement, part of second wave feminism from the 60s to 80s. Perhaps centered earlier, took place between 1960s and 70s. And this has to do specifically as part of second wave feminism, was a political alignment of women and feminist intellectualism. It emerged in the late 1960s and continued until the 1980s, particularly in the industrialized nations of the Western world. Towards achieving the equality of women, the women's liberation movement questioned the cultural and legal validity of patriarchy and the practiced validity of social and sexual hierarchies used to control and limit the legal and physical independence of women in society. Women's liberationists proposed that sexism, legalized formal and informal sex-based discrimination predicated on the existence of the social construction of gender, was the principal political problem with the power dynamics of their societies. So I am sure that, okay, being that this tells me that this is feminist intellectualism, political alignment of women and feminist intellectualism, I am sure exactly what Drudenfuzz was talking about. I am sure that feminist intellectuals have certainly addressed the meaning of Tiamat in Babylonian mythology and what that means. Like, I'm sure that that's probably been the case. When he said, so there we go. Drudenfuzz says no, including itself is not, but if you make that an evil deity and the male counterpart good, then it's questionable. Okay. It's okay, questionable. So it's not like questionable at worst, right? Yeah, right. So that could be. There's almost an unseen silent eye roll. Right. This is Gamer's Quest is like how I'm reading that. There's almost an unseen silent eye roll as they reference it. It's not a celebratory comment inviting women into the game. It's an eye rolling jab at a group they clearly don't take seriously. Yes. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. It is a jab. Yes, an eye rolling jab at a group they clearly don't take seriously. And so the question is, are they not taking, clearly they're not taking the women's liberation movement seriously. But does that mean that they are involved in the hatred and of women in general? I don't know. So anyway, it's an unfortunate fact that women seldom appear in original D&D, and when they do, they're usually portrayed disrespectfully. Slavery appears in original D&D not as a human tragedy that devastated generations over centuries, but a simple commercial transaction. I want more information on that as well. Because, okay, so like I can believe that there is like a table in here that gives you the price of a slave. Like I can completely believe that. And if you're looking down the list of different things, your character, I can completely believe that there is probably a table in here that gives you the price of a slave. So does that mean that this is this is reducing to a simple commercial this is that this means that the game is reducing that to a simple commercial transaction. I guess. But on the other hand, there's a lot more D&D to read too. If you see that in some table someplace, what else is actually going on in the world building and stuff like that? I don't know. So we'll have to see. Micah says they had a table for types of prostitutes. I can completely believe that too. I can completely believe that too. Cultural appropriation of original D&D ranges from the bewildering, like naming every sixth cleric a llama, to the staggering. Okay, so yeah, so I can also believe in here that probably what we have is a table that tells me a name to like a title for every different level of cleric. I can believe that, and I can also believe that they started running out of potential titles for clerics rather fast if you got to go up to 20th level or whatever this goes. Yeah, so different names for different cleric groups like llama got added in. And so I'm not so much bewildered by that as I am like, okay, if we're talking about like greater world building and things like that, why would every cleric of a fantasy god have any title like this, but much that conforms to what we have here in the world, much less a mix and match of probably a bunch of different cleric titles. And that when you come around later to greater world building, you'd be like, hey, this doesn't really make sense that, I'm the priestess of magic. And then by the time I reach 6th level, I'm a llama. Oh, that doesn't actually make sense. Let's change that. So I'm not really bewildered. At least I don't think I'll be bewildered by it if I saw that table. Likewise, I'm probably not going to be staggered that there are game statistics for sacred figures revered by more than 1 billion people around the world in the book. Were players expected to fight Vishnu, one of the principal deities of Hinduism, kill him and loot this +3 sword of demon slaying ? Well, actually, I don't know. Like that's another point where like, okay, well, let me go look at the page. But I bet if I open up gods, demigods, and heroes, I won't be staggered that there are different gods from different religions and mythologies and whatever that have been revered by people. So we'll get. This might go on too long. But I think this could be completely. I think that an editor who knew what they were doing could have completely rewritten this passage, or maybe not completely rewritten, but it could have edited or rewritten this passage, and no one would have even thought about it. which arguably would be their job. I mean, like I said, it's not something that I even would have thought about until this but apparently a lot of people did. So that for some reason is called out. So that's what we were looking at. Okay, there is also this. So what was this? So is this from... Is this also from that book? What's being called out here is note that rules for fantastic medieval wargamers campaigns that make up original D&D were created by and sold to a wargaming community that was almost exclusively white middle-class men. The rules compiled here offer little by way of roles for other players, nor indeed for anyone who wouldn't easily identify with a pulp sword and sorcery hero. Especially before 1974, the rules made light of slavery in addition to including other harmful content. To reiterate the disclaimer Wizards of the Coast includes on legacy D&D content, these descriptions were wrong then and are wrong today. The content is presented as it was originally created because to do otherwise would be the same as claiming these prejudices never existed. Okay, well that's okay. So this is about the standard disclaimer, which we kind of already discussed, and why some people might have a problem with it. But isn't this... Isn't this what Elon Musk... Oh, yeah. Okay. So this is what Elon Musk replied to. Okay, I didn't realize that this was there was a thread here. I thought this was just that one tweet. Because when I was looking to what Elon Musk replied to, I thought it was just that tweet, but maybe there is this. But okay. But anyway, but the reason I was looking at that is because that's what Elon Musk originally replied to. So Elon Musk said, nobody... This is then what I guess got everybody noticed. So everybody noticed once Elon Musk said something. He says, nobody, and I mean nobody, gets to trash Gary Gygax and the geniuses who created Dungeons and Dragons. What the fuck is wrong with Hasbro and WotC? May they burn in hell. What kind of response is that? What kind of, okay, welcome to the internet and especially welcome to Twitter, right? Okay, so if you're going to have a conversation about a passage in the prologue and how, hey, could this be written differently? Could, whatever, like we just had, what is the meaning here? Let's look here. We just had what I think is, I like having these discussions live. I think we had a reasonable discussion about that particular passage and maybe how, different things that it means or how it could be rewritten. What kind of response is this from Elon Musk? Like I said, other than welcome to the internet, where if you'd like a longer discussion of something, I guess you have to come here to the Morning Grind or Table Talk, right? In order to actually discuss this. Because, I was playing around. I hadn't used Twitter in a long time, although I was recently kind of playing with it over the last few days because I'd been on it because I was like, okay, so what is it that was going on here? And then I was also over, I was checking out Blue Sky as well. It seems like if you want to have a in-depth intellectual conversation on something, hey, Twitter is probably not the place for it. I don't know about Blue Sky because I've just kind of logged in and was looking around. But it seems like that format in general may not, because I think Blue Sky replicates the Twitter format, may not be great. But here we go. So he comes in with this. I don't even know what kind of take to call this. What is this? Sensational, right? Yeah, it's a pretty sensational, right? Yeah. So right, this is intended to grab headlines, right? Yeah. Sensational as in headline grabbing, not wonderful, right? Boom. This is, I don't even know. I don't even know. This is one of those things. It's like, again, I would be like, I probably would have just again, rolled my eyes. I'm like, oh my God, what kind of response is that? Nobody, why Elon Musk is like, nobody, and I mean nobody gets to trash Gary Gygax and the geniuses who created Dungeons and Dragons. Well, a lot of people are going to have a lot of different opinions. So what does that mean? Nobody, I mean, nobody gets, some people might not like him. Some people might have nuanced opinions on him. Some people might want to trash him for whatever reason. what is this? So this is like a grenade, right, that he throws. My coffee's cold. I'm about to have to get something else here. About to have to warm it up again. So he throws this bombshell into the middle of everything, which, of course, is exactly what a certain type of what a certain group of people wants to hear. Like, exactly. If you are not like a certain group of people who may not be interested in nuanced conversation anyway. But, we are talking about like, how do you gain a following or whatever? Like, one of the ways you can do it is to tell people exactly what they want to hear. So obviously this is like exactly the kind of thing that a certain group of people wants to hear. And so in went the grenade. And then I guess that's when it all exploded, because probably we would not even be, I mean, I know I wouldn't have even been looking at the groom's like tweet or whatever. I mean, it wouldn't have even been on my radar at all until, of course, Elon Musk throws in the grenade, and then it blows up all over everywhere. PH says it's the response of a man-child. I mean, he's abusing the drugs. People are talking about him becoming more and more erratic. It does that. These things, it's. I mean, okay. So, I mean, definitely on Twitter and different places, people will say things that, oh my God, outraged, whatever. Throw it out. I think this, and that it's not completely thought out. It wouldn't be what you might say if you were on a long form discussion like this, or it wouldn't be something that you would say in a long form discussion like on Table Talk. When you get in, sit down. But a lot of people blast off something on Twitter, blah 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 blah, bam 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 bam, and then yes, and then it's just picked up by people who like it. And man, I think there's a lot wrong with social media. So here's one of them. Just bonkers off the wall. Okay, grenade going in. It's antagonistic. 100%. This is a grenade, right? Hey, good morning, Andrew. Good morning. Good morning. So anyway, but that grenade goes in, then everybody starts talking about it. So this is the second one that Elon Musk responded to. This was like the next day or something like that. So that when was that? Like I said, I'm a bit behind here. So that was on November 22nd that tweet went out. Then he on the 28th. So it was a few days later. Okay, so it was the 22nd to the 28th. I also don't know. So he responded to Ian Miles Chong, who I don't know. I mean, I don't know either. I don't know who that is. Rip Dungeons and Dragons. This is what we were saying here. So this was the next thing that happened. And again, I don't know any of these. I don't know these people who are involved. Does anyone know Ian? What does he say up here? What does his say? I say the quiet part out loud, co-host of the Other View podcast. I don't know the Other View podcast. He said, Rip Dungeons and Dragons. Jason Tondro, the project lead of D&D and senior designer at Hasbro's Wizards of the Coast, explains that the intended audience is woke and that WotC doesn't give a damn about what Elon Musk or any other grognard, a slur for old school players, thinks. I just don't take these critiques seriously even now. I consider these people not worth listening to, so I didn't anticipate their outrage. First of all, is grognard a slur? I've seen people go back and forth on that. That's okay. Bacon comes in like is anticipating my thoughts here. So I didn't think that was a slur. I didn't think that grognard was a slur. So anyway, that's what here, that or any other grognard, a slur for old school players, things. I just don't take these critiques seriously even now. I consider these people not worth listening to, so I didn't anticipate their outrage. He's referring, of course, to Elon Musk's negative reaction to WotC's dismissal of D&D creator Gary Gygax, whose creations, according to Tondro, would never pass DI inclusivity review today because it was made by old white dudes, and that's totally problematic. That's his tweet. So Elon Musk is about to respond to this tweet. But also, so that's the tweet by Ian here. The Titterpig Rancher says, grognard isn't a slur, but it's more and more been used to somewhat synonymously with neckbeard. Okay, that's kind of my understanding as well. I wouldn't have thought that grognard is a slur, but we're talking about it's talking about language again, and the shifting of language and the way that we look at different or use different words. In some ways, although we have increasingly sophisticated ways to articulate ourselves and articulate our thoughts, in some ways, yeah, it seems like a feature of our society is that words kind of get rung together. So yes, if he had said neckbeard right there, I would have taken that. I don't know if it's a slur, but I certainly would have taken it as, or I assumed that was to be taken as an insult, right? If he said, I don't have any I don't consider what any of these neckbeards think. Okay, I would have said, okay, that was an intentional insult. But you're right that perhaps as we are looking at all of this, the language starts to get conflated around, I don't know. So possibly, if the word grognard is becoming more and more, or if that's happening, it's becoming more and more synonymous with neckbeard, then it might be. I see a lot of discussion in the, in the chat about whether or not it's misogynistic to have the evil dragon be female and the good dragon be male. So there's a lot of discussion in there. I'm gonna have to, but I'm gonna skip it. You're welcome to have it in discussion in the comments, but this seems that's a bit to the side of what we're talking about today. Although it seems like a very interesting discussion that we could have, especially since I have a monster in one of the stories that I'm writing, which is a big evil monster, and it is a woman. It's a female monster. So I have to think about that. But anyway. But on the subject of poor communication, so this looks like a Facebook screenshot by Jason, and the comment, I can't tell who put the original comment there, who phrases the question because it's cut off. But then Jason responds here. Okay, so the thing is, before we go to that, I'm going to grab more coffee. Oh my God, we're gonna have a second Yeti hug break today. I'm gonna warm up my coffee. Just 1 second.
Oh, it's time for a Yeti hug break. Yeti hug break, Yeti hug break. Everybody go hug yo Yeti and show yo Yeti some love.
Like to the point that the grenade is not helpful. We're talking about help. Maybe discussion on Twitter in general isn't, but because of the format, maybe. But certainly grenades like that are not helpful to any type of dialogue. Everything just blows us. So Better with Bacon says, member for 21 months. Thank you very much, Bacon. Oh, you know what? I should give away some memberships. People are here and watching, so I should do that again. I'll bring that up so that I can do that. My internet is so slow today. Everything is wrong this morning. Let me go to the place where I can do that. And mute that. Okay. Let me go to the place where I can do that. Okay. Let's do that right now. Let's give away membership gifting. Let's give away 5. Hey, let's give away 5. 5 memberships going out into the chat. Who gets them? Nathaniel, great old ones. Byron, Lil Edis, and Michael Pastor. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you're in the chat, say hi. So welcome to them. So better with bacon. Who, by the way, you should also check out his channel, Better with Bacon. He and I had the discussion last night on The Hobbit on the Table Talk channel. So check out Table Talk, but also check out Better with Bacon. Click his link because he does discussion of RPG material on his channel as well. So grognard means old soldier. It's French and was originally applied to Napoleonic Imperial Guard. Ultimately, it's borrowed from wargaming. That was my understanding as well. And the association with grumbler, right? Yes. Well, I mean, so much is. It's not about having productive conversations. It's just about engagement, so people bait each other there. But I mean, but also elsewhere. I mean, that was one of the reasons. I mean, I stepped away generally from Twitter. There's a long period where I didn't even log into Twitter for a long time, and that was before Elon had even bought it. It's because I never felt good after being on it. But it's, this is the same way. There's a lot. I mean, even here on YouTube and things like that. I mean, yes, everything is engagement. We create for computers, for a computer to think that something that we are doing is good, so that it goes out to more people. And how does a computer largely determine what's good? It seems like algorithmically, if it sparks some type of outrage. Let's see. Where was I going? Oh, okay. So this right here. So, okay. So this is a question. So this goes to my question about the communication between groups of people. We end up with a bifurcation of people. And I don't know how to fix this. We see this bifurcation, I guess it's YouTube and Rumble. Like, I was wondering, do I need to mirror some of my content on Rumble or something like that? Because there was Odyssey, but I haven't heard anybody talk about Odyssey all that often. But it does also seem like there's a clear political bias to Rumble. But okay, so if you're unhappy with YouTube for political reasons, you can go to Rumble. Okay, so I'm sure there's other stuff on Rumble too, like people mirroring material and stuff like that. But clearly, you've got that bifurcation. We have the bifurcation with Twitter and Blue Sky. We have a problem with information siloing anyway that you can accidentally do to yourself. And we've known about that for years and years and years. And I don't think ever come up with a way to fix that, because you can also do intentional information siloing to yourself. Absolutely. Sometimes completely legitimately, because they're just things you don't want to hear about. You're like, I don't want to, turn on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, and I just don't want to hear about certain subjects. Okay, so you can do that to yourself for completely legitimate reasons. You can do that for other reasons that might not ultimately be good for society when we do them in aggregate. And I don't know how we fix this situation. I really don't. So, but here is the example of having two groups of people who just are not communicating with each other at all. So, out of curiosity, I see a super chat. Robert says, Robert for $4.99 says Musk isn't trying to have a dialogue. Clearly, he wants to abolish the legacy disclaimers and more broadly DEI at corporations. There's a real political context. I accept that the grenade was not about having a dialogue. Okay, so out of curiosity, did you or your team foresee any blowback to your comments potentially? That is, attention from Musk was as unpredictable as it is ludicrous. But was there any sense in advancing that this could rub some portion of the fandom the wrong way, though still be worth doing? So I think this is an interesting question, because, you can't really, probably you were not sitting there as you were putting together this book, and expecting all of a sudden, well, now, what if Elon Musk comes in and throws a grenade? Okay, so who knows? That can happen anytime. But this is an interesting question that, okay, did you see any kind of, what were we talking about right here? And so Jason responded, I guess the person who posted this is Aaron David Lewis, because we get the reply right here, who I also don't know. Says, okay, so early in the book's development, this is Jason Tondro replying here. It says, early in the book's development, the marketing team asked me what sort of critiques we should expect and prepare for. And I and the editors agreed the problem was going to be from progressives and people from underrepresented groups who justly took offense at the language of OD&D. I didn't write the preface until late, and I wrote it to address these concerns. It never occurred to me that I would rouse the ire of the grognards. It's obvious now that I look back on it, but I just don't take those critiques seriously even now. I consider those people not worth listening to, so I didn't anticipate their quote, outrage, unquote. This does seem bizarre to me. Does it seem bizarre to anybody else? Because if you're preparing a book that is going to be, so if you're preparing a book that is probably, I'm guessing this is an expensive book. And if you are preparing it as a 50th anniversary edition or product, 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, and we are preparing this expensive book, and then who are you going to market it to? Well, people who probably not to people who just found Dungeons and Dragons in 5th edition, or people who came in because of Critical Role. Probably not. Probably who the market for that book are the grognards, right? At least that would seem to be the case to me. But clearly they thought that, okay, if we put out this book, then what the critique that, or the critique that we're going to get from this are from progressives and people from underrepresented groups who justly took offense at the language of OD&D, original D&D. And I would guess then by extension then that, hey, we're releasing D&D 5.5, or it's probably already out. Like, we don't want to have a situation where all of these new people who love Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition are going to not buy those books because we published something that they take as offensive in this 50th edition book. Okay, that's a reasonable business perspective. If I'm understanding that. Hey, wait a minute. So the response to that is going to be, we're going to include something in the preface here. And I wrote that to address those concerns. Business here. That, okay, well, I don't want anybody who loves us from 5th edition to stop buying our books and stop sending stop giving us money because they're offended by this. What can we do to prevent that from happening? Why don't I write a preface in here that addresses those concerns? That way, if somebody looks at this and says, I can't believe you published this, I'll never buy a 5th edition book again. But hold on, here's the preface. It never occurred to me that I would rouse the ire of the grognards. So multiple people looked at this, because he says editors plural. I and the editors, and also there's the marketing team, but I and the editors. That does seem like a blind spot. That is so easily fixed. Probably going on. We're not gonna have time to do that, but we could rewrite it without. I think that whole passage that could do exactly what they wanted. Make sure that nobody's going to stop buying 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, or as few people as possible will stop buying 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons material because of the publication of this book. And still make it something that the target audience of the book will completely accept in no way. So it does seem like a blind spot that if you were reading that and then you didn't anticipate that the core audience of the book might think something was weird there. But on the other hand, it seems like people talking to themselves with all the same opinion and didn't actually bother to do the job of an editor and actually just rewrite the passage. I mean, isn't that the case? I mean, does it seem like, I'll look at the chat here in just a moment. That seems like the case. It seems like, that's why I say that this is an editorial thing. The editors, plural, clearly, I don't think we're doing that. Like, hang on, wait a minute. We can rewrite this. I don't think they were doing their job. If it never occurred to anybody, and it says never occurred to him, so it didn't occur to any of the editors. Like, if it that is a blind spot, and the editor should have caught that. To me, it's not that big a deal. But it seems like if I were an editor for the product, I would rewrite it. And you could say exactly what you wanted to say in a way that I think would have been unobjectionable to everyone. So, but that's okay. Sometimes you do have blind spots, and sometimes you are just talking to other people who have exactly your opinions. And so you do end up with a blind spot. That does happen. That it could be completely the case. I completely accept that I was writing all this and it just never occurred to me that there could be any problem, or that I could say this in a different way, or I could say this in a better way. Never occurred to me. Okay, I mean, fair enough. That happens to people right now. Because he does say it's obvious now that I look back on it. So yeah, so I mean, I also love the acknowledgement there. I accept that, that, okay, yeah, it's just not something I thought about. But that, yes, it is obvious now. I mean, if I read that passage, I mean, I would just blow past it. But if I read that passage, would I say, are some people going to have a problem with this? Is some segment of the player base going to have a real problem with it? I would say yes. That wouldn't have been a blind spot to me. I was like, okay, this section right here, this is going to cause a whole bunch of reaction. We're going to say among certain places. I wouldn't have had that blind spot. But it is obvious now that I look back on it. But then he says, but I just don't take these critiques seriously even now. I mean, I guess the critique even here, like we're talking about, okay, could we do the job of an editor and rewrite it? Is this part of the critique that is not taken seriously? I don't know. I consider these people not worth listening to, so I didn't anticipate their outrage. That's also extremely honest. There's a certain group of the player base that I don't consider worth listening to. Fine, no problem. And so as a result, I had a blind spot to this. Is that your understanding as well? That's a completely honest take. And you know what? It doesn't matter. That's not even a problem. To me, that's a very honest acknowledgement of what happened here. And it's not even a problem, because you don't even, like, a company or any individual like this doesn't have to satisfy everyone. There can certainly be groups of people out there who you don't like, who you do not take seriously, whose opinions you don't think are worth listening to. I mean, that's certainly the case with me too. So if I'm writing something or I'm doing something, I'm like, this doesn't accommodate this group of people. And you're like, well, I don't even like that group of people. I don't think they're worth listening to. I don't think they have intelligent points to say. So maybe you have a blind spot on that, but if you understand what their side is, you're like, yeah, I can understand why that group would have a problem with X or Y that I'm saying, or this part of the story, or whatever. Like maybe there's a female evil dragon or something, and that's going to be like we're just talking about in the and that's going to be a problem. But on the occasion, you might say, okay, well, I'm going with the evil dragon anyway. I don't care. One of the issues is that there is a lot. The only thing that matters when we're talking about this at the end, and I talk about this, or have said this with regard to something like Star Wars and Star Trek as well, because it's the same thing. You've got large groups of people who love something. You've got small groups of people who just will go off the wall about something. And those people might not have the buying power that that the people who are in them would like for them to, right? Because at the end of the day, okay, are you making money or are you not making money? Okay, I mean, at the end of the day, all you can do is not buy it, right? Or buy the movie ticket, the book, the whatever it is. And it's a business decision regarding, okay, this is our main player base. we found a new market. This is our player base, or this is the people who watch the movies, or this is the people who play the video game, or whatever it is. And we don't care about what other people, what smaller groups think, because they just don't have the buying power. Did I put a Lovecraft Legacy disclaimer on the Cultist web show? No, I did not. Does horror babble when they read a story? Not as far as I know. I've never heard one. It's been a while since I've listened. But that's the issue being raised. Yeah, it's right. It's right. I mean, that's why I'm not opposed. Like, right, this. Yeah, I don't know exactly what Micah said here, but TL Frontman says it's refreshing to say look. I just don't think I need to listen to absolutely everyone. Yeah, in this case, it's a little bit strange because he's talking about not the audience for Dungeons and Dragons in general. That's why this does seem a bit strange, because he's not talking about Dungeons and Dragons in general. He is talking about the specific section of the Dungeons and Dragons fans who would purchase or would be most likely to purchase this book. So that's the weird part. That is the weird part. Let's see. Let me look here. So yeah, so there you go. So, but anyway, so I mean, I don't have a problem with the statement. Like I said, I think I would have done. Like I said, I think I would have edited the preface to say basically exactly what he wants to say, but in language that but in language that wouldn't have that what I think would have been unobjectionable to everyone. But that's fine. I mean, but this is fine. So but the response, the only reason we're talking about this is because that is the response, is what Elon Musk responded to. How much is Hasbro? It's taken us a long time to get here. So he responded here, how much is Hasbro? The dungeon coach, and not dungeon coach, Professor Dungeon Master was talking about this. And he was like, sometimes you run into, he said, a big bully or a bigger bully or something like that. And to me, that's what Elon Musk is doing here. You know, so then everybody goes off, like, is he serious about buying Hasbro? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't necessarily even think that was the point here that he was trying to make. I mean, if I had as much money as Elon Musk, I would probably own things like Dungeons and Dragons. I probably would have bought them, you know. So, okay, yeah, maybe. But the issue, I think what he's responding to here is that sometimes you run into, like, if you say, I don't really take these critiques seriously, I don't think these people are worth listening to, which is perfectly fine, well, all of a sudden, why might you have to listen to it? Because he might just buy you. Because there happens to be somebody in that camp who has enough money just to buy it. And maybe that's why you should listen. That's the way I took it. Like, oh, yeah, you don't that he's part of that group of people that he doesn't think that he could listen, you have to listen to. And he just showed you why, right? So yeah, to me, it's like saber rattling. It's like a saber rattling thing. I mean, who knows? Maybe we will actually sit here have to be sitting here talking later about Elon Musk actually buying Hasbro. But that, like, if you don't want something like Dungeons and Dragons, like, because he could say, like, there are only a few people who could buy it. Like, you're talking about an individual, because once these IPs get aggregated, I mean, there may be no way for them to come back, or very, very few. I mean, once the rights to something get sold off, eventually it's gonna get sold again, and things aggregate. So that's why you end up with these, like, publicly traded large corporations. And I think publicly traded is important to say about that. Because yes, you can be a corporation, but you can just be one person or single owner or something like that. When you're talking about a publicly traded large corporation that has responsibilities to shareholders, financial, responsibilities to shareholders, and expectations, you aggregate all of these different IPs, and they just become a vehicle to make money. So if you're, that a single person, in ways that single individuals or individual creators might not do or be acceptable with. So I guess one of the only ways that something could, leave a, a large ownership is of a corporation, is through something like the purchase of an individual, who could then take it private and, do whatever he wants to with it, I suppose. So I guess that's one way, but there are only a few people on the planet who have the buying power to actually do that, I guess. Oh, did he do something with MSNBC recently? Yeah, this is trolling. It's saber rattling. That's what I think that it is. Let me go back up here. Gamer's Quest says, at the end of the day, I don't understand what's so offensive about wanting to make a community more welcoming and representative of a broader fan base. I don't either. Micah says, yes, bad marketing to a big portion for this work, but it should have been neutral to both, not only addressing things. BGD says, Lovecraft was an invariant racist and a flawed individual, but as a black reader of his works, I would do myself a disservice of my desire for equality if my desire for equality made me fail to appreciate his genius. This is not just a problem for book publishing and content creators, but for modern society writ large. I agree. That's why I think that I don't know if I've done a good job with leading this conversation or not, with trying to address issues that I just don't see, I haven't seen addressed elsewhere. But to speak to BGD's point, the issues that I saw underlying that, who knows whether I've actually communicated this well or not, are the issues of the issues that underlie all of these discussions that go throughout society about movies, books, TVs. I see it play out over and over again, and so it's boring to me. So I don't often talk about it. But it's the same thing across all these things. Let's see. I'm going through some of the stuff here. Like, let's see. TSL frontman, let's see, really sounds like some YouTube nerd dug up some old quotes from early D&D, tied them to Gary, getting his name bumped to the back of the book, and then claimed the woke mob is hating. I don't know. Companies spin off stuff all the time. Disney buying most of the Muppets except Sesame Street. He can make an offer for the D&D property, or some other company like Jazzwares could. Yeah, but see, to me, I mean, he could. Yeah, like maybe they'd even want to sell D&D. Who knows? Like, I'd seen that talked about anyway earlier, like months ago or whatever. But it could totally. I mean, he could totally do that. But to me, that was part of the saber rattling again. The bomb, like, okay, you know what? It's not like, hey, okay, so how much is D&D to buy? He has the money to throw around. He's like, so how much is Hasbro? That's the way that I took that statement. Lots of stuff right here. So, okay. So, all right. Well, so what do we do here? So that's it. So that was kind of my take. Yes, I know that it doesn't really, like, it's not going to influence the way that you play, but this is further just siloing and bifurcation of people in the United States who, okay, and that's, you don't have to be involved with anybody you don't want to be involved with. But ultimately, man, everything just seems so bifurcated. So I guess that goes back to James' point. Like, so here, that's what I was talking about, communication. So this is about people who love a specific property and would like to continue or resume purchasing official releases. I'm quoting James Bacon here from our Discord server. He said that I could. It's about people who love a specific property and would like to resume purchasing official releases, but who maybe take issue with paying specific organizations or individuals money. And that's going in both directions. And I don't even know how to even start trying to ultimately reconcile that. Maybe this was not useful at all. I don't know. To go through it and talk it out in this way. Like I said, it does kind of make me do the Streisand effect to go back and actually see what was inside that. Because who knows? Maybe I would be absolutely shocked. I could be utterly appalled. All right. Well, I suppose I've got actually a lot of things to do today. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be live streaming tonight on the Cultist channel or not. Because it seems like Polly has backed out, and I don't know if I have enough time to find somebody else for tonight. So I don't know. Stay in touch on the Discord server if you are new. I'll put a link to the Discord server in here. Maybe rewriting that passage would be something for another day. I think that that might be an interesting exercise. It might also be pointless. All right. So link to the Discord server. Hopefully it did advance conversation and on the topic. Thank you everybody for being here today, and thank you to everyone who's going to be watching on the replay. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Maybe I am way off base. Okay, later everybody.